So let's continue here. As I was looking at this chart, I noticed that instead of drawing the origin of this Schiff, no, it's a modified, no, it is a Schiff. So instead of drawing the origin of this Schiff pitchfork here along our horizontal support resistance level or zone, that if I pull it back to this price point, I get the kind of price action that I would like to see, or more like to see when I draw Andrew's pitchforks. Oh, and this is interesting too. So let's move that. Oh yeah. So look at there. Um, so those two changes, if you notice, so let's emphasize what we just did there. There's two different changes. So this is the fork that we were looking at in the last video, and so there is value with that fork. Basically, it's showing us horizontal support resistance levels. Price has nearly bumped up into that level, and now maybe is running out of energy up here. We could have gathered the same energy, same information from this horizontal horizontal trend line. No, we don't go. Let's go right there. We could have made, see, it's the same information. So the fork didn't really provide us any extra information there. Um, but what I noticed is that if we come down here and just let's draw the origin of our fork down here, well, so now we get price interacting. It's more clear that price is interacting with the median line of the fork right there. Um, and then just as a confirmation, let's go back and look at, well, no, see, we've still got that same behavior. I really don't care for when I'm this, and this is just me, when I'm drawing an Andrews pitchfork, I really don't want to see this behavior where price has dropped out of the bottom of the fork. So in my mind, that is less than ideal. Um, but I am going to give some value to the fact that price found support along the lower median line of this fork, and now it appears that price is running into resistance. Let me get rid of this ellipse. The price is running into resistance up here at the median line of the fork. Let's look at MACD is kind of my go-to for, um, well, I guess you'd really call it trying to reset my settings here. When I am looking for an indication of overbought or oversold, my first line of defense is MACD, because basically we're talking about it's the momentum accumulation indicator, and so which direction is momentum headed in, um, and then is momentum, likely to continue, or does it need to pause for a bit? And so the MACD indicator is where I tend to look first for an indication of energy, price energy. And in this case, since I'm babbling here about MACD, um, it's got plenty of room to run. So see, my MACD is not not going to become overbought until it gets way up here. So there is plenty of room for MACD to move further. Now we've also got price bumping into this horizontal resistance level. And so not only is it this horizontal resistance level from prior price highs, that's this black dashed line, we also have the resistance from the Andrews pitchfork, or in this case the modified Schiff version of the Andrews pitchfork. And so what Andrews teaches us is that 80% of the time when we have drawn a valid pitchfork, there are some simple rules. It's actually 5. There are some simple rules that we can depend on or rely on being true about 80% of the time. And so one of those rules is being, or maybe being, demonstrated here at the median line of this pitchfork. And so let me just, highlight that price action. And so a key point I made in what I just said in the last, 45 seconds, that was not, didn't want to draw a trend line, I wanted an ellipse. One of the things that I said in the last 45, 60 seconds or so is that what Andrews told us is that when we draw a valid pitchfork, there are 5 rules that we can pretty much count on happening 80% of the time. Well, so the logical or the next question becomes, okay, well, how do I know if I've drawn a valid Andrews pitchfork? And so to answer that question, one of the things we're looking for is how does price interact with the pitchfork that we have drawn? And so here we are seeing price has come down to the lower median line of this pitchfork, tested it for support, and then gone off, and now potentially it's testing the median line of that fork as resistance. So that's one perspective on this fork. What I go back to as a caveat is that if we start with, and this is where I prefer to start with, just me personally, what does the original Andrews pitchfork look like on this price chart? Do I start with a legitimate, valid Andrews pitchfork? And in this case, I question whether that's really the case. But, again, technical analysis, each of us can have our own opinion, and we can all still be correct.